Every video about this bow is bad and everyone's using it wrong, so I decided to make a video on this bow to show you how to get the most out of it. But first of all, what's up with this bow? Why this one? Well, the most notable things about this bow are the huge raw and spread 5 level 3 charge. This led to some people thinking it's secretly amazing, to the point some people even called it the best bow. It's not, full stop. In fact, it's pretty bad. Without a few fixes anyway. Fixing this bow is not a new idea, since there are a bunch of videos and posts about it after all. The problem is that those don't make it nearly good enough to keep up with other bows and don't address all of its problems, leading to some people believing it's better than it actually is while using bad sets that don't make it as good as it could be. For comparison, the Harbinger's Battle Bow, the actual best bow in the game, has 769 effective raw with power coating before buffs, plus 20% more on power shots thanks to True Shot Up, assuming the meta set. Gaijin Hunter set, on the other hand, only has 694 effective raw. This does not sound like a huge difference, but keep in mind that this is a spread bow with no level 2 shot and no True Shot Up, meaning there's going to be a huge damage loss from missed ticks, harder positioning, and the lack of True Shot Up, optimal damage combos, and stagger control. The Harbinger's Battle Bow can often flinch lock monsters with uncharged shot to power shot combos and deals punctual, consistent damage and controls its distance via the heavy shot arch. This is something that the aged bow simply cannot do, even with a damage fix. That being said, with my build it gets pretty close to the Camellia's bow, which I've tested and compared against the Skilla Web Dart, and got pretty close to it in terms of clear time and number of shots used against monsters where I could properly hit good zones with spread. It was never outright better, but the gap wasn't very big either, which in my opinion makes this good enough to use it for fun without being a liability to other players. So now that you have an idea what you can expect from spread bows, let's look at the set. First of all, we're gonna need Pellet Up. It adds plus 30% raw damage to spread shots, which makes this skill a no-brainer and non-negotiable. Bitter Affinity is also going to be needed to offset the horrible minus 70% affinity. Bitter Affinity gives you a 25% chance to turn a negative crit into a bitter crit that deals 200% damage. Effectively, this translates to plus 0.625% damage per negative 10 affinity compared to 0 affinity on average. At minus 70%, this means 4.4% more. More simply put, this skill effectively adds the equivalent to almost 90% more affinity. I do need to put a disclaimer here though, because there's something that makes this skill pretty problematic in my opinion, which is the huge RNG dependence of the skill. While on average, this does return more damage than fixing the affinity via crit stacking, the fact that you can get random bitter crits means you will get a very huge fluctuation in damage between individual shots. Ideally you want to count hits to predict flinches so the monster doesn't move a lot, but you simply cannot predict them consistently if you get random bitter crits that mess with your stagger control. This combined with the spread of the shot type and the possibility of losing damage to the damage bug make proper stagger control inconsistent to impossible. Regardless, the damage increase is too big to pass up, so it's gonna be necessary. Now here's what most of the other sets I've seen strangely enough don't use: True Shot Up. Considering Valor is the best style and gets 2 power shots, 20% more damage on them makes this skill a no-brainer. A 20% increase from a skill that takes up only 5 single slots is easily one of the most economic things you can add to any bow set. Even with Adept, if you prefer that. This is just a ton of cheap damage, so don't skip it. And finally we're gonna fix the lack of power 2 coatings on this bow. This got to be my biggest disagreement with the other set suggestions I've seen, because they just throw so much damage out the window by not fixing it. Power 2 would add plus 50% raw damage while applied, and this bow only comes with Power 1. Power 1 on its own isn't bad, but we want even more damage. The Power File All skill is unfortunately much too expensive, so we can't get it. Luckily, there's something else we can do. The aged bow comes with close range coatings, which we can use for blade scale hone. Blade Scale Hone adds plus 50% raw damage to close range coatings, turning them into power 2 substitutes. Factoring in combines, you can bring 40 coatings, which is not as much as the 70 power 2 coatings, but it's a lot better than having none at all. It also synergizes nicely with Spread, because it allows you to get even closer than normal thanks to the close range crit distance. Spread crit distance actually doesn't start from the player, but rather a step or two away from you, meaning you want a little bit of distance normally. Close range coatings make it so the crit distance starts right in front of you, so it lets you get even closer in addition to the plus 50% raw boost. Just be aware that the hit connections become a bit wacky when doing this, so don't make use of this if you don't have to. It just makes positioning easier and adds some indirect damage. For the set you're gonna need a Blade Scale 3, Negative Affinity 3 or Pellet 3 triple slot charm, because only Naset can get this skill combination and those charms are the minimum requirement. If you have even better charms, a Pellet 4 triple slot charm with enough points and attack up can get you even more damage, but anything you can still add on top of these skills is appreciated. With these skills, it reaches 772 effective raw before buffs and true shot up, which roughly matches the battle bow now. The Camellia's bow by comparison reaches 846 effective raw with a generic crit set, but only gets spread 4 and is dependent on wax zones, so I'd say we got pretty close to where we want to be, all things considered. Ultimately, this is still a meme set and won't beat out any meta set. But thanks to Blade Scale Hone, it's gonna have a much better time keeping up with the good weapons and getting reasonable solo clear times. Just keep in mind that you need to start using and combining close range coatings before Power 1. Other than that, enjoy this literal piece of junk bow.